We are down here at the Harbor Island on our annual day to give the public an idea of what it is that the Village of Mamaroneck Fire Department is responsible for. My name is Mark Ballantyne. I'm a past captain of this company behind me, which is Hook and Ladder Company number 1. There are 5 companies in the Village of Mamaroneck Fire Department. One is Hook and Ladder. We have Engine 38, also known as Halston Manor. We'll talk about that in a little bit. There's Engine 41, which is Columbia, which is behind me. There's Engine 42, which is also known as Volunteers. And we have another company that actually sits in our house, in the same exact house that we have, and it's called Mamaroneck. We do serve some different functions within the fire department. I can talk to you about exactly what each piece of apparatus is responsible for. Ultimately, the job is to protect the public and ensure the public safety, and we do that by a vast amount of training, a lot of teamwork, and communicating with each other, and we're constantly looking to achieve that and work towards that. And we're back, all right, and with me I have firefighter Andrew Ponicello. Andrew Ponicello is one of our younger, more active guys, most active guys actually, and he brings with him a tremendous amount of training experience, and we're very lucky to have him. Andrew here is going to be explaining exactly the turnout gear that each and every firefighter is required to wear. As the years have gone by and you have a lot of synthetically produced materials, these things tend to both burn hotter and also give off a lot of really bad gases, a lot more so than what used to be present back in the past. And as a result of this, every single time you go into a working fire, the average firefighter will probably be wearing in excess of anywhere between 75 to 100 pounds of gear. This is called bunker gear. It consists of a lower part, obviously pants, okay, and this is considered a harness where he can latch into certain things if he has to. He can also get himself out of a building if things turn really bad, and like you heard me say earlier, he can't get back out the way that he came in. He does have a fire-resistant hood, okay, and then he's going to be putting on the jacket here in a second. And in addition to that, we will have a breathing apparatus called a SCBA, which is self-contained breathing apparatus. And obviously when we go inside, all the gases, they're superheated. You can't breathe what's inside. So we need a means of supplying fresh air to that person that's going to be working inside. So this material, while they've gotten better over the years, you can only do so much as far as before you start compromising any aspect of safety. These are fairly thick, but the material has actually gotten much better over the years to the point where they're much easier to move around in. They are made for comfort, but again, in addition to that, the environment to which these guys and these girls that are in our fire department are going into is extremely hazardous, very dangerous, and you can only compromise so much comfort to make sure that they're going to be as safe as actually possible. And that it gets done and gets accomplished by both training experience and trying to get the best possible materials and equipment that is out there. So it's fairly thick, not as thick as it once was, but it's not exactly 100% comfortable. When it is hot outside, it's about probably 100 degrees hotter inside this, okay? So we train with this, we know to expect it, but understand that when you do see a firefighter, first and foremost, it's okay to go to them, okay, if they're on a fire scene. These are the people you want to be talking to, that's a good thing. But understand, as far as, like I said, when times are at their worst and these guys are inside fighting the fire, they're going to be fully encapsulated. They're going to be wearing a jacket, a pair of pants, a helmet, a hood, as well as a breathing apparatus that when everything is said and done, trying to actually hear that person speak can be a little bit difficult sometimes. So what he will be doing next is, in addition to the helmet, jacket, and pants, he's going to be putting on this breathing tank. And when it is activated, you'll see that it makes a certain specific sound, and we try to put a lot of effort into making sure we educate the public, especially the kids, that it's okay to, again, go near someone who may not look exactly like everyone else does based upon what it is they have to wear. It can be very frightening sometimes, it can be very loud, so we want them to see them up front, up close. Go ahead, and Andy's going to be turning this on right now. Now, in addition to the equipment that he's wearing, you overheard me say that safety is a tremendous part of what it is that we have to do. And on this is a motion sensing alarm that if he, God forbid, got hurt, and firefighters unfortunately do get hurt sometimes, and he stopped moving, we have to know exactly where it is that he is, if by chance he's not talking to us. Okay, so it's called the pass alarm. So are we turned on? All right, so you're going to turn it on, and you're going to hear a little bit of a beep. And after a certain amount of time, if he stops moving, you're going to start hearing this audible alarm going on. And if that continued and he wasn't able to start moving, that's our clue to go inside, try and find exactly where it is that he is. And so we're on. So you just heard that audible beep. And now, if you put on his mask, if you could put on, and first and foremost, what you see him doing is he's trained to get low, okay? Because all the really hot stuff is high above him. Every firefighter is trained to get low and try and utilize as much of the cool heat as possible. So these are all tactics that are evolved and incorporated over vast hours of training. He's been wearing his gloves, and after a while, if he was to stop moving, you would actually hear this alarm start to go off. And if he didn't start moving again, that would just continue to go off, and it would get louder and louder and louder. And that's how we're going to go inside, because in addition to having to protect the public, we have to make sure that we're protecting our own people as well. So for every single time we have people inside, there should be an equal amount of people that are outside that are protecting everyone else that's inside working. Behind me is one of our aerial apparatuses. It's called the Tower Ladder. This is Tower Ladder 20. Tower Ladder 20 is a 100-foot tall aerial platform, also known as a bucket truck. And its primary function is, as you can see, with the ladder going up, we do have some tall buildings in the village of Mamaroneck, and with that, we have to try and make sure we can maintain access and get access to the top part in the event that we either have to make access to the roof or else, God forbid, have to try and get people from a higher level of elevation. And we are now up on what they call the turntable of Tower Ladder 21. This is the control center for what allows us to bring the aerial all the way up, all the way down. You can retract it, you can extend it. This can actually go even below grade, so below the level of horizontal, if by chance we needed it to. This is what they call a climbable ladder, so it is quite possible you'll have firefighters, if need be, either climbing all the way up this to where they are, or all the way down. It's preferable that they actually just enter the bucket from ground level if they can, or at least from this level over here. If we're involved in a long-term operation, it's quite honestly going to happen where people are going to be climbing up and climbing down. As there is a control center down here, you do have a similar set of controls up in the bucket, and the bucket, they'll basically allow you to do certain things. You know, the benefit about having people that high up, they have a certain different vantage point than I can see down here, and it might be just beneficial to them to be able to rotate left, right, clockwise, counterclockwise, extend, retract, whatever it is they feel they need to do to try effectively put the fire out. Make sure they can get the bucket in a position where it's going to be as safe as possible, and if need be, make sure that it's a means of egress to allow people that are working on the roof to get off, or if need be, also try to extract people that can't get out of the building by other means, either by a fire escape or whatever the case is. So, as I said, typically my job here is, if I was a chauffeur, would be to extend and retract, get them to a point where they can function themselves. That requires constant communication, either by means of this box, what you see over here, and also by when I'm doing this, I'm also keeping an eye on the amount of weight that's at the tip of this ladder, because this does have functional limits, okay, and it's all weight-based. So you have to take into account if there's water flowing, how many people are going to be working up on top. The equipment that we're wearing, which we said, automatically add about 100 pounds to the average size person. That's what's already going to be at the tip of that. So you got to keep an eye on as far as what's going on, how far we're going to be. By utilizing that technique, education, experience, with the outriggers being out, all those factors come into play, and you have to try and keep account of all of them to make sure that this piece of apparatus is working the way that it needs to. Okay, and we do that, again, like I said, through teamwork, communication, training, and experience. So we're starting on as our little walk around with the tower ladder. We do have one other piece of apparatus which is not down here today. It's ladder 21. It looks a little bit different than this truck behind me. This truck requires only one driver. The other one that we have up in the firehouse is ladder 21. Ladder 21. Excuse me, and that requires two drivers. It's called the tiller. Okay, and the main reason we had that is because there are a lot of tight streets in the village, and prior to this truck coming out, we would utilize that piece of apparatus to get into the smaller streets, the smaller areas where either this one or other apparatus may have had some difficulty. The benefit about technology, and as things progress, is the turning radius, and a lot of these apparatus have gotten a lot better. So in addition to having the tiller, which we have up top, this one definitely turns on a tighter radius. We can get into a lot of these smaller streets. So this, into addition, with the tiller apparatus that we have up top, allows us to, again, serve the function of protecting the village of Mamaroneck to the highest possible caliber. As you heard me say earlier, we do serve a little bit of a different function in the Village of Mamaroneck Fire Department. In addition to trying to do a search and try and find exactly where the fire is, find where any victims may be, we're also responsible for trying to work with the guys that are inside, putting water on the fire and trying to alleviate some of that heat. And some of the ways that we do that is we may, in some capacities, open up a roof. This compartment back here is one of the ways that we do this. Various types of saws, which if you can look at, also have various types of blades. Some blades that can be used for cutting wood, some that can be used for cutting metal. This is a chainsaw as far as doing exactly what chainsaws do. So this is one of the primary functions and the primary means by which we would use to open up a roof to try and alleviate some of that heat and get rid of and try to help the guys that are inside working. So we always want to try and alleviate that heat. We always know that fire and heat rises. As that heat rises, it has to go somewhere, and we're trying to alleviate that as much as possible, as quick as possible, so we can try and put the fire out, find where the fire is, and make the environment inside where the guys are working that much better and that much easier to work in. And we're at the back of the tower ladder now. And there are, more often than not, a lot of occasions where we have to utilize what they call ground ladders. We are considered a ladder company, which means that we don't just utilize this big ladder that's on the outside. We utilize by what they call ground ladders for means of egress. Like I said, a big part of what we do is all about safety for us as well, and we have to make sure we maintain a means by which to gain access to where we have to gain access to, but also if things turn bad, and it can happen quickly, to have a means by which to extricate ourselves or get ourselves out of that position. We utilize that, and we do utilize what they call ground ladders. Inside this compartment, you have a variety of ground ladders and a variety of different heights, ranging anywhere from 16 feet all the way to 40 feet. Okay, and obviously, sometimes either by means of just narrow streets, overhead power lines, could be trees on the street, anything else along those lines that's going to prohibit us from utilizing the large area on top. We utilize these ground ladders to simply either go into a window and get out of a window, give ourselves means of egress to get where we are and also off of where we are. On the top part over here are also what they call pike poles. Okay, and these come in a variety of different heights and sizes. And the main things for that is sometimes there could be fire inside the wall. Sometimes there could be fire or something that we need to get access to that's above us. I know I'm 5'8", okay, so anything above 5'8", I'm going to have a hard time trying to reach. And these can be anywhere upwards of sometimes 10 feet, 12 feet, and even higher than that in some capacities. So it allows us to extend our reach and pull certain ceilings down so we can see what's on the other side of that ceiling. Fire is going to try and travel by any means necessary where it finds avoidable space, and sometimes those avoidable spaces can be on the other side of the ceiling where we're not going to be able to see. And ultimately, it could look like a fire is out, but the fire is not out until we've looked at and checked at all aspects of avoidable spaces, either be it through a wall, on top of the ceiling, or anything else along those lines. So we utilize all these different tools, be it a pike pole, ground ladders, Halligan tools, anything else necessary that we feel that we're going to need to do to gain access to where it is that we need to gain access to. And as we go to our next compartment, we also do have the ability sometimes to try and push out as much smoke that may be inside a house as possible. Okay, it's what they call ventilation. A lot of training goes involved with ventilation. It's just not simply putting wind into a fire. There's certain ways you want to do things. And we want to try and evacuate that smoke and push all that smoke out. These are some of the methods by which we'll use. We do have these fans. These are electrically driven, okay, so they work off electricity. And quite honestly, what these are doing is simply pushing air inside a space, or else it can be taking it out in some capacities, trying to push all that air into the spot where the smoke is and trying to push that smoke out another part of the house. By doing that, it can eliminate some of the heat as well, also some of the toxins that are in that air. On top of that, it makes visibility a lot better and a lot easier, and again, allowing us to accomplish our core mission, which is to try and extinguish the fire, fix the problem, figure out what's going on, and make sure everyone's safe. And as we continue our walk around, we do have some of these other various aspects of our cabinetry that we have in the tower ladder. All right, if you come over here to my right, it's what they call a roof kit. Obviously, what we do try to do, we try to minimize the amount of damage that is caused in addition to the fire. And one of the ways that we do that is that at some point, once a fire is actually extinguished and if we had to make a hole in the roof, we would make attempts to try and cover that roof up to the point to try and minimize any further damage that could be inside the premise. Both for the guys that are still inside, because once the fire is out, the investigation is still ongoing and continuous. We don't just stop right there. We have to figure out exactly what the cause and the origin was of that fire, why it happened. In some capacities, was there any suspicion that someone tried to intentionally do that, which doesn't happen that often, but we have to make sure and ascertain that we have the right people in the right places answering these questions and making sure that we're basically crossing the T's and dotting the I's. So once the actual fire is put out, the investigation continues, and in addition to that, we also try to minimize the amount of damage that's occurring after result of us having to put the fire out, which sometimes does involve us having to cut holes in certain aspects of roofs and things like that. So this is one of the compartments that we use up here. Sometimes there's chimney fires. We are coming into chimney season, and as a result, sometimes people either don't clean their chimneys properly, and as a result of doing that, chimney fires can occur. We have the capacity to go in and try to extinguish that fire. It requires a certain specific set of tools, but that's one of the aspects that we can bring by utilizing both experience and training as well as the tools that we have on this piece of apparatus. So that's one of the functions of this cabinet. If you come over to my left, in addition to having to cover up certain aspects and try and minimize the amount of damage that's possibly caused as a result of a fire, there are certain times where you have to gain entry into a certain premise. Okay, maybe a door might be locked. It could be a business that's out of business hours. It could be a residence that is just nobody's occupying the dwelling at that time, and we have to utilize certain tools by which to try and forcibly gain entry. This is one of the means by which we can do this. All right, it's what they call an iron set. Okay, this is called your Halligan tool, and this is quite simply an axe. And by utilizing both of these pieces of equipment with training and experience, you can basically gain access to anywhere it is that we have to get into. We have certain other tools that are in here as far as in some capacities we may have to pull down a ceiling if there's fire up above us. We have other means by which to do that. And also these can be used when we have to go inside. In addition to trying to force entry, the firefighters inside may be utilizing these for searching, okay, because they're going to try and extend their reach a little bit, okay, make it a lot of noise. Obviously when there's a fire going on, there's a lot of chaos and a lot of hectic activity, and sometimes you may not hear the people calling out for help. We try to make sure to make as much noise as we can. We try to extend our reach with this. And also, God forbid something happens where we are inside a building and things turn really bad, we have to figure out a way to get ourselves out if by chance our primary means behind us is blocked. Sometimes that may involve us going through another wall. Sometimes that might mean us going out a window. Okay, but these are just some of the tools that we utilize to accomplish that task. So we're finishing up the last part of our tour around this cabinetry for the tower ladder. And anyone that's in the village of Mamaroneck that either lives here or visits here knows that we are primarily about 3/4 surrounded by water. And when things happen, either be it by cold means, either ice or whatever the case is, there are times where we may have to enter that water and go and try and get somebody who's in there and try and get them out. We do have some certain specialized equipment. These can be called what they have referred to as Gumby suits. And main reason being is that for anyone that knows who Gumby is, all right, you put on this suit, you're all surrounded, you're insulated, and this allows you to both float inside the water as well as maintain some kind of warmth, because once you go inside the water, it could be a very, very hot day, but you start losing body heat much quicker in the water than you do when you're standing outside of it. So this allows you to both try and float and also get to where that person is and try and get that person out. It's a specialized skill set, and we're constantly trying to train and evolve and make ourselves better depending on what's out there. A lot of what we do is predicated by hindsight, okay? All these new techniques that are either coming down from the FDNY because they've had experience, and that's information that's passed down through the channels from them to everyone else like us, and that's what we continuously strive to make ourselves better through training, either be it in-house training, other training that's accomplished by the county, and some capacities could be accomplished by the state. All right, but these are cold weather suits. They're utilized to go inside the water to try and get somebody out in adverse weather conditions.
This is Chief Schmaling from the Village of Mamaroneck Fire Department, along with Trustee Keith Waite. This is our 5th year doing our fire prevention program down at the Harbor Island Park. We started this about 5 years ago. It's a great way to give back to the community, show them exactly what we do and how we train for what we do in an emergency situation. Today we have Girl Scouts on hand. We have Jumpy Castle. We give away food and different things, and we do fire prevention all day long. We have a live burn behind one of our fire trucks that we take care of, and we show people how to actually put out a fire in their house, a small fire, not a big fire. That they have to leave that part to us. But in case they have a little garbage can fire or something, it just shows them exactly what they're capable of doing with a fire extinguisher. Other than that, I want to let Trustee Wyatt put his input in this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you very much, and thank you for today. This is a great day. As he said, the 5th time we've done this to really outreach to the community, get them to understand about firefighting. We have the best fire service around. They're all volunteers. They dedicate their time and their lives to this, and the camaraderie here is terrific. We are so proud as a village of our fire service, and today is just an example of what they can do to the community, and I thank you so much, Chief, for all you do. Thank you.
Yeah, my name is ex-Captain Scott Croce from Engine 42 of the Village of Mamaroneck. In addition to performing firefighting duties, we also do rescue response to I-95 and do multiple accident scenes. We do have specialized equipment to extricate people from the vehicle. These are battery-operated Hirsch tools, formerly called the Jaws of Life. We have tools to cut open cars, open doors, move steering wheels in order to remove people from the vehicle. All these are battery-operated, and they have just as much power as the old hydraulic ones.
So, continuing down here at VMFD Day, in addition to the apparatus which you guys have already seen, like you've heard me say earlier, there are 5 companies that make up the Village of Mamaroneck Fire Department, 4 engine companies and 1 ladder company. The ladder company has 2 pieces of apparatus. Each individual engine company has their own singular piece of apparatus. Each one has an area of responsibility within the Village of Mamaroneck, either being towards the Halstead-Rhinebeck area section of town. It could be towards over the Washingtonville area, which is engine 42. It could be over towards North Barry, which is engine 41, and also have the middle aspects of the town, which is engine 40. Each one has their own rich history, okay, dating back to 1884, which was the first initial company, which was Hook and Ladder Company number 1, and each company followed suit after that as need arose, and as the population of the Village of Mamaroneck increased, okay. Obviously, this village has a very rich history. We are 110% all volunteer. All our money comes from your tax dollars, and we do days like this to make sure that you know that we are out there, that we are in fact serving you. We are serving the public. Each person here has dedicated their time, experience, and energy to further that mission, to make sure that each resident and also visitor to the Village of Mamaroneck is safe to the highest possible standard. And we're now inside Tower Ladder 20. This is the crew compartment, the crew cab, and this is where all the firefighters that are responding to calls will be sitting. We have spaces for 4 other firefighters, plus 1 up front. This is where the officer or the person in charge of the apparatus would typically sit. And obviously the driver's seat is occupied by what they call the chauffeur, the person who's responsible for operating the apparatus. And they tend to have a large amount of experience as well in training. You don't just come in the fire department and then start driving this. There's a lot of training that's involved. You have to get certain qualifications as an interior firefighter first, and then you work your way towards becoming a driver or chauffeur. As you can see inside this compartment, they try to make things as streamlined as possible. All these seats, okay, do rotate down. Inside, you can actually see these packs that we're talking about that you saw firefighter Ponicello wearing earlier. And if you can also notice, they're also set up to the point where, as you're sitting in the chair, you can slip your arms right through them. These come off harnesses as this pops up. And when you exit, you're exiting fully ready to go to work. We don't take things for granted. We don't walk into any house, like I said earlier. Every possible situation that we deal with, we try to we get ready for the worst possible circumstance while understanding that it doesn't happen as often as that, okay? But we'd rather be ahead of the game than behind it. And we do that by just constant training, communication, and recognizing the fact that things can go from times of being very, very good to all of a sudden times being very, very bad in the blink of an eye if we can't see exactly what's going on. So we have to try to expect the unexpected, and we do that through just training and experience. Okay, so continuing in the crew cab, we do have means by which to communicate. Every single person, in addition to the regular equipment, will be carrying a radio. Okay, it's mandated, and obviously for obvious means, having more sets of eyes in a certain emergency scene is going to help the person that's responsible for that scene. Normally that could be a chief that's going to be responsible, what they call the incident commander, and everyone follows suit down from him. So yeah, means by which to communicate to each and every person on the scene, from either firefighter to firefighter or firefighter to the incident command post. Things can be very, very dark, especially with smoke. It's actually quite common when firefighters do go into a working fire that visibility is absolutely zero. You cannot see your hand in front of your face. So in addition to training and getting comfortable utilizing your other senses, we do have some lights that you typically would have, and as conditions do improve by everyone working together, trying to eliminate all that smoke, get rid of all that heat, over time, things do tend to progress. But in the meantime, when we go inside, we try to give as many tools as possible, either by hand tools, irons, things like that, to regular flashlights that have very strong beams in them, and anything else that's available as far as this technology and time provides for. All right, so we finished up talking about Tower Ladder 20, and we're going to bring us over to one of the other companies. You heard me say there's 5 total companies. This is what they call Engine 42, okay, and also known as Volunteers. This is one of our rescue companies, one of the engine companies rather, and this has a specific function on top of what you see as far as actually providing water on the fire. They do have a tremendous amount of specialized equipment that can be utilized to extricate people from accidents, as far as on accident scenes. This particular piece of apparatus, in addition to Engine 41, will respond on all accidents when the fire department's requested. They are the primary means by which to go up onto I-95. They've been involved in a lot of specialized technical aspects by utilizing the tools which you see behind me, which I'll get somebody else to talk about in a second. This is our newest piece of apparatus. Okay, it's only been in service for the last year and a half or so. It's considered what they call a rescue pumper, and they do have a pump, so they, in addition to providing water onto the seat of the fire, water to the fire, they can be supplying us with water to the aerial devices. They will be utilizing all the other specialty aspects to effect rescues when those rescues are needed, okay, and render care and aid when it's needed as well. So, as one of the 250 volunteers of the Village of Mamaroneck Fire Department, I want to thank you for allowing us to do what it is that we do. It's a pleasure and an honor to work and serve this village in this capacity, to work alongside such fine professionals, both male and female. Okay, all you have to do is be 18 years of age. If you want any further information you have as far as how to join the Village of Mamaroneck Fire Department, you can join our website or visit our website at www.vmfd.org. That has all the information that we've spoken about today. It also gives us a bit of a history. It gives you means by which, if you're interested in trying to join, how to contact us, and gives us a basic overview as far as any kind of special information that we may have, any message that we may want to try and give out. We're big with, obviously, fire safety. Okay, October is Fire Safety Month. We do go to the schools on occasion and give fire safety lectures as far as to how to keep the kids safe. Gives everyone access as far as to our members to see exactly who it is that we are, what we're about, where we come from. We honor and we incorporate everybody. Okay, we welcome everybody as far as into this organization. The volunteers are the lifeblood, and we are truly lucky to have each and every single one of them. I thank you as being a member and a resident. I was a lifelong resident. I am a lifelong resident, and I'm looking forward to seeing you out there. Thank you.